At the age of 18, I was a member of the junior class at Washington College at Lexington, Virginia, during the session of 1860 to 1861, and with the rest of the students, was more interested in the foreshadowings of that ominous period than in the teachings of the professors. Among our number, there were a few from the states farther south, who seemed to have been born secessionists, while a large majority of the students were decidedly in favor of the Union. Our president, the Reverend Dr. George Junkin, who hailed from the North, was heart and soul a Union man, notwithstanding the fact that one of his daughters was the first wife of Major Thomas J. Jackson, who developed into the world-renowned Stonewall Jackson. Another daughter was the great Southern poetess, Mrs. Margaret J. Preston, and Dr. Junkin's son, Reverend W. F. Junkin, a most lovable man, became an ardent Southern soldier and a chaplain in the Confederate Army throughout the war. At the anniversary of the Washington Literary Society, on February 22, 1861, the right of secession was attacked and defended by the participants in the discussion, with no less zeal than they afterward displayed on many bloody battlefields. We had as a near neighbor the Virginia Military Institute, the West Point of the South, where scores of her young chivalry were assembled, who were eager to put into practice the subjects taught in their school. Previous to these exciting times, not the most kindly feelings, and but little intercourse had existed between the two bodies of young men. The secession element in the college, however, finding more congenial company among the cadets, opened up the way for quite intimate and friendly relations between the two institutions. In January 1861, the Corps of Cadets had been ordered by Governor Wise to be present, as a military guard, at the execution of John Brown at Harper's Ferry. After their return, more than the usual time was given to the drill, and target shooting with cannon and small arms was daily practiced in our hearing. Only a small proportion of the citizens of the community favored secession, but they were very aggressive. One afternoon, while a huge Union flagpole was being raised on the street, which when halfway up snapped and fell to the ground in pieces, I witnessed a personal encounter between a cadet and a mechanic. The latter afterward deserted from our battery during the Gettysburg campaign in Pennsylvania, his native state, which was promptly taken up by their respective friends. The cadets who were present hastened to their barracks and, joined by their comrades, armed themselves and with fixed bayonets came streaming at double quick toward the town. They were met at the end of Main Street by their professors, conspicuous among whom was Colonel Colston on horseback. He was a native of France and professor of French at the Institute. He became a major general in the Confederate Army, and later a general in the Egyptian Army. After considerable persuasion, the cadets were induced to return to their barracks. Instead of the usual Saturday night debates of the college literary societies, the students either joined the cadets in their barracks at the Institute or received them at the college halls to harangue on the one absorbing topic. On the top of the main building at the college was a statue of Washington, and over this statue some of the students hoisted a palmetto flag. This greatly incensed our president. He tried for some time, but in vain, to have the flag torn down. When my class went at the usual hour to his room to recite, and before we had taken our seats, he inquired if the flag was still flying. On being told that it was, he said, "The class is dismissed. I will never hear a recitation under a traitor's flag." And away we went. Lincoln's proclamation calling for 75,000 men from Virginia to whip in the seceded states was immediately followed by the Ordinance of Secession, and the idea of union was abandoned by all. Recitation bells no longer sounded. Our books were left to gather dust and forgotten, save only to recall those scenes that filled our minds with the mighty deeds and prowess of such characters as the ruling Agamemnon and his warlike cohorts, and we could almost hear the terrible clang of striking spears against shields as it resounded throughout the army.